Welcome back to Connecting the Commonwealth. My name is Chris Vaughn with Family Wealth Planning Partners, and I'm here today with a good friend of mine named Bill Reynolds.
Thanks, Chris.
Bill owns a company called Element 502, and we're going to learn a little bit about Bill and a little bit about Element 502, and I suspect you've probably got some very sage advice that you're going to hand out to everybody today, right?
Well, I have advice. We'll measure the level of sageness.
We'll find sageness? Okay. All right, cool. So Bill, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Bill Reynolds, president and owner of Element 502. We've been in business. We're going on our 6th year this year. We're a local marketing and advertising agency. I've been working there the whole time that we've been open, which has been great. There's some great stories behind that, and maybe we'll have time to get into them today.
All right.
Married, live here in town with my wife and our 2 kids, and yeah, we're having a good time with it.
Fantastic. So what got you into the industry that you're in? Tell us a little bit about that industry and then what got you into it.
Sure. So we're in marketing and advertising. As far as how we got into it, it was God himself that led us there. We were looking for what our next steps were. I'd been pastoring a church, and that church closed down. Nobody did anything wrong, no impropriety. God was just done.
Glad you said that one. You just got it out of the way.
I always have to say that. And we were trying to figure out what we were going to do next, and had an opportunity to consult for a marketing firm here in town. And the following year, there was some strange things that happened inside of there. Again, not anything that I had anything to do with, but we were given the opportunity to possibly purchase it. And so my wife and I went off to pray about it, came back together, talked about it, and said, well, I don't want to buy this, but I think God's telling us we need to. And she said, well, darn. I'm hearing the same thing. So neither of us really wanted to,
all right.
But we knew that there was a plan. So that's how we got into it. I had 20 years marketing experience before, so it wasn't like we just said, hey, today we're going to do Windows kind of thing. So we had experience in it from before I was pastoring. I'd ran the digital side of a local marketing firm. And so I had experience in the industry, which is why I was consulting there. But God just led us to ministry in the marketplace through our company.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about Element 502 itself. Sure. Now, if I understand it correctly, at least the conversations you and I've had, we kind of lean into the digital space. Is that all that you do, or just give us the whole synopsis of the company?
The fancy term for it is we are called a full-service agency, which means that we do what people consider more traditional forms of advertising. That could be business cards, a billboard, an ad in a newspaper, maybe a print flyer, mail, something like that. Also on the digital side, though, that's how we get messages in front of people. And I always tell people when we talk about the digital, and I'm sure you've heard it from me more than once, that we have varying degrees of creepiness to find people.
You know, I was going to make sure that I ask about the creepiness, because those are some great conversations right there. So we'll come back to creepiness here in a little bit. So keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem. So the reason that becomes important is because when we're working with someone, we can take from concept to creation through fulfillment and through complete execution. And so that's helpful along the way. I always tell people we don't have to be the only person in the room working. We'll work with shallow or deep as we need to, depending on other assets or other people they have. I always ask for just 2 things, though. Number one, you got to tell me who's in charge so I know who gets to make the final call.
Right.
And that doesn't have to be me again. I just need to know the pecking order. And secondly, I need to be able to tell you that your baby's ugly, which isn't a mean thing. But if somebody's making a bad choice, my job as a vendor or as someone helping you is I need to at least let you know what you're walking into.
Right.
At the end of the day, if you say, I appreciate your opinion, but we're still doing it this way, internally we call that pink polka dots. You can say, you really don't want to wear pink polka dots with those pants. And they go, this is what I'm wearing. You go, yes, sir, you're the client. I've told you what the problems are going to be. We'll let you go. There's
an old concept that the customer is not always right.
That is
but they are still the customer, right?
Yes, they still sign the check at the end of the day.
So you call that pink polka dots.
That's what we call it internally.
I'm going to steal that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's probably not the best outfit to wear.
Best outfit.
But I've made you aware. You said you still want to, so we'll walk with you through it.
Right. Okay, so you already kind of teed it up. Let's talk about the creepiness a little bit. So, some of the conversations that we've had, you've talked about how you can target very, very specific things, and it does come across a little bit on the creepy side. So, why don't you give me an example of what you're talking about by the creepiness?
Well, the toe in the water kind of thing is what everybody's probably familiar with. I always say Amazon is a great a great example of that. You go to Amazon, you look at something on Amazon, you start surfing the internet. Well, if you haven't bought that product on Amazon that you looked at, you're going to see that product and similar products start showing up in these ad spaces all around the internet. The websites you're visiting on your Facebook and on your Instagram feed, you're going to start seeing these things. That's called retargeting. It's really simplistic based kind of stuff. We can go a little bit creepier, and we can use based on your location. So back when people are visiting, we've got people going in, foot traffic going in. So I can say from a advertiser, I want to know everybody who went to your restaurant but didn't come to my restaurant in the past 6 months, but also lives here in town, because we don't want to care about marketing to people who are just in town visiting. So I can get home address, because your phone usually stays there between 6 and 8 hours a night. And so that's a pretty good way for me to tell you that that's probably your house.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely creepy.
Yeah, it's getting creepier. And so then we can market to that, to those type of people that are there. And then we can even do one step further for the advertiser themselves, for the customer, and say, oh, here's the number of people that we sent ads to, because, again, I know your device, and I know that I can jump across to other things in your home, like from your phone to your iPad and other stuff. It's not a virus. It's just that it's digital footprints.
Right.
And so we start tracking those and coming in. And so then we can tell the advertiser, we can tell the customer, we can say, hey, here's how many people we sent ads to that actually showed up at your business. And so that's a powerful thing to show the effectiveness of the marketing.
Wow. So you actually can give me the metrics that say, I've spent X number of dollars on my advertising spend, and this is exactly how many people I've reached that are highly specific. We got technical problems going on behind the scene. The producer's just throwing stuff on the ground.
It happens.
It's fine. How it is. So you can actually tell me exactly how many people you've reached, and specifically that they are the type of customer I'm trying to get to, right?
Right. And the neat way that you can use that, first of all, just to make sure that no one gets scared, it's all the data. The fancy term that you'll learn today is obfuscation. And what all that means is it's basically they take a black marker and cover over everything that's identifiable as you. So I don't know
redaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I don't know it's Chris Vaughn that's going in here, but I know somebody that has this particular advertising ID and they act like this. And so all that data is hidden from us so that we don't say, oh, it's this house. Because that's beyond creepy, and that's actually illegal to do that. So we don't do that.
Interesting.
But the other places that this type of stuff could be useful for is, let's say that there was a wealth planning group, people who do financial planning and wealth management.
I don't know anybody like that.
I know, but we're using this hypothetically.
Yeah, sure.
And we say, we're going to put on a really cool event for people that would be our target prime customer. And we know that there's this event at a big golf club here in town that probably a lot of people that we would want to do business with probably go to this golf club frequently.
Right. Okay.
Now, it would be really cool, though, if we knew where they went after they went and played golf, because then we could partner with those people to actually put on an event that would mean something to them. So, like maybe...
Creep factor is going up here, right?
Yeah, but this is all for good. It's all for good. It's all for good. So we can actually measure over 6-8 months, and we can rewind time. It doesn't have to be an active capture. We can look in the past and say, folks who were playing golf here, a majority of them also show up here afterwards at this particular restaurant, shopping center, whatever. And so it would be great to be able to market with those people to these people.
Okay.
To set up an event that works. Or we can do foot traffic. We did this for a liquor store here in town where we looked at their traffic pattern over 60 days and looked at the demographic and the interests and hobbies of folks that were coming in.
Right.
And found that there was a large amount of people that had a lot of care for the Humane Society, animals, different things like that.
Interesting.
And so then they are working on how can we partner with like the Humane Society to have puppies and kittens at our liquor store for adoption, because we know that a lot of the folks who are coming here also like those kind of things. So just neat ways of looking to find people working together.
Interesting.
So it's all data.
So you made the example a couple minutes ago, and I think we've all been through this. So I'm online and I'm on Amazon and I'm looking for something I was thinking about the other day. I was looking for a pair of shoes, and sure enough, I start getting retargeted left and right by shoes. Everywhere I went, the Facebook ads were coming up, shoes and stuff like that. So what you're telling me is you could actually target a shoe store, right? And because I went into a shoe store, now I'm going to be targeted in all of those ads and maybe Amazon as well,
right?
Trying to sell me shoes.
That's correct. Yep.
Wow.
And it's just all based on behavior. And then there's other things you can do too, based on the sites that you're looking at, the different pieces you're going. People are familiar with like Google Ads, where you go to Google, you type in something, you see an ad. Well, maybe you just scroll past the ads because you're like, oh, these people are trying to sell me something. I just want to look at the meat. Well, based on your search histories and your search patterns, that starts to set up who you are as well. And so we can target based on search intent. So it's not an actual live capture that's there. It's all about data, and it's just all about how you're doing. That's what I say. If you don't like any of this stuff, you just need to become a Luddite. Just throw your phone in the, throw it in the water, and just walk away.
So all the people that said, "Though I'm not going to get a vaccine because they'll put a tracking chip in there,"
you carry it with you all the time.
You've already got it.
You carry it,
and you paid for it, by the way.
Yes, yeah,
and you pay to carry and you pay a monthly fee for it, right?
And you pay to carry it. So that's it.
Okay, very cool. So while we're on that subject, let me step into this. 2020 was a bizarre year. And we all know, some of the things that went on. But what I'd be curious about, it has changed a lot of industries. What has it done to your business, to the advertising world? How have you had to go about making changes?
Well, one of the more difficult things was that if your business was an in-person business and all of that sector dried up, that causes an issue. And so then it's working with customers. What are some ways that you can retool and rechange? We had quite a few folks that were working with commercial real estate places, office cleaning, paper shredding, those kind of things. Well, if there's less people in the offices, then you need to pivot. You need to change. And so some of our shredding companies actually started incorporating a residential route on behalf of the commercial, because you have people working, but now they're able to work at home. They've got newfound freedom. So why not still protect your assets as a business and put together a safe box that just goes out of that person's home? And so that's one of the things. And so pivoting along those lines, we had a large equipment seller. That sector shut down temporarily, but they realized they had a fantastic machine shop that they always had internally because they had to service and do all the maintenance and preventive maintenance on the equipment that they were selling and renting. They realized that the guys that were working there had a business all along. They just never marketed it because it was a support arm of this other.
Right.
And so then they just took their generators, put the welder, put everything else on the back of a really nice truck, and just drove to other machine shops and helped keep them working. And so part of what that does is it just helps people figure out a different way of marketing yourself based on what you already do really well.
So, in those two examples that you gave, that makes perfect sense that they have adapted the way that their business works because of all the events of 2020 and the shutdown and everything. How do you advertise differently with people like that than you would, say, traditionally?
So what you have to look for when we were talking briefly about intent marketing and those kind of things, you have to look at what people are searching for. Because they're going to raise their hands and tell you where different things they need are. They just may not know the fancy way of asking. And I say that because your industry and my industry, in wealth planning, there are very key technical terms and jargon that you use as a financial advisor or in financial planning that other advisors and planners will instantly know what you're talking about and be keyed on. Average Joe like me that doesn't know those terms, you're talking about, all the fees on this particular investment are front loaded, and so that way you're going to change this, and everybody else in the room that's a financial advisor will be like, oh yeah, I know what he's talking. I'm going to shake my head, pretend, but I have no idea what you're saying. And so if I'm going to go online and search, I won't search for that. I'm going to search for how do I save money on investments and pay my taxes up front rather than at the end. And you're like, oh, well, that's what I just said. Well, I get that, but that's not.
But in a different language,
that.
Right?
And so, understanding how people speak versus how people in the industry speak, and matching those two things together—that's been a big change for we're doing search targeting or any kind of SEO work.
All right, very interesting. So, what advice would you give to people out there who are trying to up their online presence or just trying to get the message of what their company does out there? What advice would you give to those people?
First, go make sure your Google business listings are set up correctly. Your address is set up correctly, your phone number, your hours, and what you do. It's all free from Google. Just make sure it's out there. Even if you don't have an online business, make sure that you put that there because a lot of your folks are going to be searching for a business, like your business or a business like yours, online. And that's free. So go ahead and make sure that that's set up. If you don't know who's running that, find out. And as a business owner, even if someone else has set that up for you in the past, maybe they no longer work for you, whatever those things are, you can reclaim it. That's technically your property. So no one can squat on that and take ownership of it. So take that over. Secondly, a lot of folks are trying to do a lot of do-it-yourself online marketing and advertising, different things like that. There's a lot of platforms that are out there that allow you to do that, as well as your ways of building your own pieces. So make sure that when you do that, that all of your legal boxes are checked. You can't just go to Google and search for an image and pull that down, because there's probably a copyright behind it, which can get you in a lot of trouble.
You were telling me a story about that before we started today. Why don't you give us that story real quick?
Yeah. So friends of ours were working on their website, went online, said, "Oh, I need a cute image about this." Found it on Google Images, pull it down, put it on their website. They got a letter from an attorney's office talking about that, hey, you need to stop using this image because it's a copyrighted image, and we actually own the copyright, and you did not license that from us. So number one, you need to take it off immediately and give us visual proof that has been done. And secondly, then we need to talk financially about how we're going to fix this issue.
Wow.
And it happens. So
even though it was out there on the internet, it was available on Google Images.
Right.
That still doesn't mean that it's not copyrighted and that you don't have to get permission.
That's correct. And robots do this work. Computers do this work. It's not like there's a person clicking through all the pages on the internet looking for these things. They look for the digital signature of that picture, and it comes across. So just make sure that you know what you're doing there and do it well. And then again, people can call us. There's other free resources online. It never hurts to ask to make sure, because the worst thing to happen is that you start getting your legs underneath of you, and then something comes and takes you down because you didn't know it was coming.
It's kind of like it's insurance for your business, right?
That's it.
Doing the marketing correctly.
Yep, and just do the research beforehand. Just ask the good questions, and ask them, when you're always dealing with somebody, what is the question I should have asked you that I didn't? So that way you bring those things forward.
Fantastic. So, Bill, thanks very much for coming in. I'm sure the producer is going to put this up on the screen, but for the people who are listening, I'm interested in doing business with you. How do I get in touch with you at Element 502?
So our website is element502.com. Go and check us out, some of the stuff we do, as well as some of the previous projects we have. My email address is Bill, BILL, at element, ELEMENT 502.com. Or you can call us on the good old-fashioned telephone, 502-267-0999. And I always tell people, questions are free. You always know before you get a bill, and we're happy to help any way we can.
That's awesome. Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate you coming in today. All right. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next time.